we're good.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Chagrin Falls Board of Education. Ms. Brudno, if you please take the roll.
Mr. Rankin.
Here.
Mr. Kanziger.
Here.
Mrs. Bros.
Here.
Mrs. Garvey.
Here.
Mrs. O'Toole.
Here.
All right, if everybody would join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag,
of
of the
the
United
United
States of
of
America,
America, and
and
to
to the republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
All right, thank you very much. I'll change my background. I love the background, but so you won't have to look at it the whole time. All right, I'm sorry, I haven't got this pulled up yet. Is superintendent's reports first?
Approval of minutes is first.
Okay. Yeah.
We have March 4th and the special meeting of March 17th to approve.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2 sets of minutes?
So move.
All right, a second.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Any questions?
No.
All right, moving on. Superintendent's reports.
We gotta take the
I have
roll.
to call the roll.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Bruno, please take the roll.
Mr. Rankin.
Yes.
Mr. Kanziger.
Yes.
Mrs. Bros.
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Toole.
Yes.
We're gonna do board committee reports.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me yet. Mrs. O'Toole, if you'd like to report on your
Okay,
committee.
audit committee, no report. Board policy committee. We met yesterday at 1 p.m. via Zoom. The committee is recommending that the board approve 1 new policy and make changes to several existing policies. We will have these on the next meeting agenda for a first reading. Here's a little recap. There's a required new policy, it'll be IKFC, graduation plans and students at risk of not qualifying for a high school diploma. This will be a little extra work for the district, but we don't anticipate having too many students at risk, but it's a required policy. We will be complying with that. Then we will have revisions to BDC about executive sessions, just to better align with state law. IJA, career advising, aligns with state law regarding graduation and that new policy I just talked about. JED, student absences and excuses. It just kind of breaks down the reasons for excused absence into 2 major categories, and it's just like the wording is pretty much the same, just clarifies things. And then there's JEE, student attendance, minor word changing there. JFCF, hazing and bullying, adds a statement that we cannot violate students' First Amendment rights, and it is required that we add that statement. And then the regulation for that, the same thing. And then GBCD, staff conduct, not required, but recommended minor changes, we're going to do that. And GBH gives clarity to acceptable behavior guidelines. So you will see all that on our next agenda, and I will have all these notes that I just read for you guys in the discussion. So you can look for that.
Do we have anyone at the high school that wasn't at risk before the coronavirus for qualifying for a diploma that now is?
So the way the law has read is essentially if you were on track for graduation at the time of the first leave, you will graduate. The students that were at risk at that time, and there were, I believe, 3 students at risk at that time, the high school administration guidance counselors are required to put a plan in place and monitor that plan through the last month and a half of school. That is all taking place currently.
And the new policy for that, it's going to track students starting in 9th grade. So there's supposed to be, you know, more robust to track whether they're on track or not. And that concludes my report, unless there's any other questions.
I just wanted to make note that I noticed it came through on my news feed that you did video record, and that's now available on our website. Is that right? The policy meeting?
I know it was recorded.
Live feeded, and I know.
I know
Go
it was
ahead, Bob.
recorded. I don't know if Mike has uploaded to the website yet or not.
Okay, it came through on my feed, so I think it did get posted.
Okay.
So if anybody wanted to, you know, follow the riveting details of policy discussion.
That should be saved forever. All right, moving on. Business Advisory Committee, Mrs. Garvey.
There is no report. And then for capital planning, we are working on getting a meeting together. It'll probably follow a very similar format to what we're doing today. And the same with the board finance and budget committee. We're looking at getting meetings in the next few weeks.
Gotcha. And for record retention, we have no report there. So we'll move on to superintendent's report. At this point, I'll turn over the meeting to Dr. Hunt for his report.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure my mic was on. 2 reports tonight. The first is a recommendation that will be forthcoming in the agenda under my recommendations regarding the virtual learning plan and state minimum hours. The state of Ohio in House Bill 179 did stipulate that boards of education would have to approve the virtual learning plan for school districts in the state of Ohio. And within that plan, the school district must indicate how they are meeting state minimum hours. So there are 2 thresholds for minimum hours. The secondary at the grades 6 through 12, that's 1,001 hours in a school year. And don't hold me to it. I think the number is like 867 for elementary students. So we went through calculations and looked at kind of where we were prior to school ending or being placed at home. And we've done some calculations and created a calendar. So within the virtual learning plan, you will have found a calendar kind of articulating the end of the year. A couple of things that I'd like to point out on that calendar, and we can certainly ask questions now and talk about it now or bring it back up when they have it in the recommendations. We have added a couple of additional days for teacher preparation, grading, at-risk assessment, and the beginning of student transition meetings. So any at-risk students, we typically have a transition meeting when those students are moving from building to building. Those would involve administration, guidance counselors, and teachers. So we've built in April 24th, May 4th, and May 22nd into those into that calendar. So those would be kind of no new instruction, no additional work days for students, and give them an opportunity to catch up. We also created for those days an enrichment and visual field trip or virtual field trip resource that we will be pushing out and release tomorrow to our students, because we do have a PD day next Monday. So those days have been marked on the calendar as well. Also, if you had a chance to look at it, we did mark off May 26th through 29th as to be determined. Those days would be considered beyond the required hours by the state of Ohio. And just quite honestly, we wanted to kind of leave that out there for now, get towards the end of April, beginning of May, and see where we were with things and make some decisions on those days moving forward. If you look at the overall virtual learning plan, I'd like to just commend the leadership of Mr. Doherty, Nancy Kevern, both of our instructional coaches, and all of our staff participated in that. I would add to the virtual learning plan and the state minimum hours. I have reviewed those with the CFEA president, and Lisa's been very supportive of everything in terms of this transition and moving forward. So I wanted to just provide you an overview and then pause if you had any questions specific to either the calendar within the virtual learning plan or the hours kind of related to what we have to do. Any questions from the board? This is a quiet board virtually. Okay, I will jump into district updates. Just a couple of quick updates for the board tonight. We did release a parent survey last Friday. We had over 500 parents participate in that. The survey was created by the administrative team. We did pluck some questions from various districts and then had some from various surveys that were out online as well as some of our own local questions. The data has been disaggregated and provided to buildings. Obviously, the quantitative data where there was rankings, there were just simply numbers and overall rankings given for the district and for the buildings. But we also asked Amy Harker to go through all comments and kind of identify emerging themes that could be shared. If I were to kind of articulate just general topics that came out in that, there was one of those would have been clarity and communication, just really providing as much clear communication, consistent as possible at the teacher to parent level so they understood exactly what needed to be accomplished and when. Flexibility in terms of having a little more flexibility in terms of time to complete things. So maybe communicating on the front and assignments for maybe Monday through Wednesday or for the whole week. So students and parents had a little more flexibility, and then an increase in interaction with staff, whether that be, via Zoom or Hangouts or just video recorded lessons. So those were the big themes that kind of emerged. We certainly appreciate the feedback of parents. I will give the board kind of an overview of all of this in the board report this week, so you know where these are going from here. Some buildings have already met with their building leadership teams and began to look at the data and determine what needs to be changed. I do want to remind everybody, it seems like this has been going on a long time, but at the time of the survey, we'd only had 8 instructional days in a virtual environment. So we don't want to overreact, but we certainly want to see where there's trends and make appropriate adjustments. So wanted to follow up on that. And I would also say that overwhelmingly, our parent feedback has been very positive in terms of the work our teachers are doing. And we certainly have we're all learning through this together. And I think, by and large, that's the overarching theme from our community and our parents. The other thing I wanted to mention from an update perspective is we have started to talk about the reality and possibility that, on May 1st, we will not be coming back to school, and that will have kind of extensive impact on our senior class specifically in terms of prom and graduation. I'd asked the Board of Education to look at the possibility of July 12th, July 11th, and July 12th. As we are kind of earmarking and trying to pick a date out that we potentially could host graduation. We would kind of go down 2 pathways at the same time. We would obviously prepare for graduation and commencement as we normally would on a Sunday, but we also are making plans that we could turn that immediately if we're not able to bring everybody together, turn that into kind of a virtual graduation. How that would look, we have ideas. We did some planning around that today. We're looking into things and we'll kind of continue to update you, but most importantly is to kind of check your calendar for that weekend of July 10th, 11th, and 12th. If everything were fine and a go by then, we potentially could have a prom on July 10th, do something on July 11th, whether that's some type of after prom activity, and then graduate or commence on July 12th. So I know there's a lot of questions about that. The benefit of how we hold graduation, sometimes we complain about the weather and the constant struggle with that, but we totally control the venue. So we had some flexibility there. And that seemed like a date that potentially might actually be far enough out that we could still recognize. Mrs. Asher did survey the senior class asking about prom, and they really felt the feedback really both for prom and commencement was doing it in July. There was a high level of interest, but as that date pushed towards August, they really felt that their sights were going to be set on college and moving in that transition. So Nothing finalized at this point, but I did feel it appropriate to let the board know that we are having those conversations currently. So happy to answer any questions, but if not, that would conclude my report.
Bob, do you have plans for additional surveys?
Not currently.
Did you, Bob, was your plan that you're going to have a virtual graduation on the June 1st regardless, and then you might have an in-person one on July 10th or July 12th?
We
Is it-
haven't got that far, Greg. We started to talk about that today, whether we have one virtually or not, or if we shoot for that July date. And if we can't do it in person, we kind of do that virtually. And we talked about what that could look like, where you're essentially holding commencement on that date. You're recording, you're physically having people at the site. We record our speeches. We conduct it as we normally would. And then we stagger graduates coming through and getting diplomas so they could get photos, and then kind of putting that all together in a recording that would be released later that day. Again, don't hold me to any of this. This is after kind of 2 meetings, but that's where we're currently at.
All right, so the virtual would be on July 12th as well, you're thinking? Okay.
Again, as of today, but we did.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
We did throw around, do we do something in June for those of people that may, there may already be conflicts out there with that date.
Okay.
And Bob, also just wanted to echo the feedback that I've been hearing in the community is very positive about the amazing response of the district. And also to really applaud our staff, our teaching staff. I think people may not be fully aware of the amount of extra work that this has really entailed on their part to prepare, lessons virtually and follow up individually with students who need it, and to really rethink the way they're reaching out to their students. So I want to just really thank them. I know this has required a lot of extra effort and is very much appreciated.
Certainly, we appreciate that. And I think any educator who had ambitions of one day working from home would really like to as soon as possible. If there's no other questions, that would conclude my report.
Gotcha. Thank you, Dr. Hunt. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ms. Brudno for treasurer's reports.
I do not have any reports tonight.
Okay. Okay. Let's see, for audience participation, how are we going to do that again?
I would just say we have not received any emails or notifications to be read or shared. Ashley, I don't know if you've received anything.
I have not received anything.
Okay. Can I have a motion for consent agenda item 8A through, give me a minute, 8G?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's see. All right, is there any discussion of the items?
The only thing I would say on item C is we're kind of moving forward. I'm kind of surprised that I'm telling you this tonight, but Ohio High School Athletic Association has still not committed one way or the other on the spring sports season. So we're kind of making approvals specific to item C as if that season could possibly happen, if there was a question there. That would be my only comment on the consent agenda items.
Okay. Any other discussion? It's very easy to see everybody right here in front of me. It's nice.
Well, just related to, because one of them is about tennis, is the timing for building the tennis courts changing since we don't have students or staff on campus right now?
So I get an email today from Chris that the contracts have been finalized, and I think they are looking at potentially starting a little bit earlier. I don't think that has been firmed up or committed. We did reach out to kind of offer and encourage that take place, though.
Okay. Any other discussion? Ms. Brudno, if you'd please take the roll.
Mr. Rankin,
Yes.
Mr. Kanziger,
Yes.
Mrs. Bros,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey? You're muted.
Yes.
And Mrs. O'Toole?
Yes.
Okay, could I have a motion for superintendent's recommendations 9A through 9D?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just want to review the recommendations quickly. Lisa Blackwell has been a long-standing member of the Chagrin Falls Intermediate School staff, both a regular education teacher, as well as most recently serving as a tutor in the building. Cindy Dean, that resignation is effective November 1st, and I've communicated with the Board of Education regarding her duties leading up to that date. We will go ahead and fill that position this spring. Actually, we anticipate a transfer into that position and filling a math position in the middle school, with probably a transfer over from the intermediate school. Item C, Amy Withrow has worked as an educational aide, both supervising the students at Chagrin Falls Intermediate School as well as in the office with attendance. Always a friendly face in the office, and we wish all of these individuals well and thank them for their service to the district. In addition, item D, is discussed earlier, as the board, there's a recommendation for the board to approve the online learning plan with the calendar as discussed earlier.
Okay.
One comment on the online learning plan. I know since you typed it up, the high school switched their schedule for office hours. Not that it's anything that needs to be set in stone, but I don't know if you want it updated or not. You can shift those.
Yeah, they realized that kids don't like to get out of bed at 8 o'clock for office hours. So they did make some adjustments. I don't know that substantively it changes the plan, that we would have to change it for your approval.
No, I would not change it for approval, but down the road, if you want to change it, I'm sure we're all fine with the update.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Brudno, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Rankin?
Yes.
Mr. Kanzinger?
Yes.
Mrs. Burrows?
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Toole?
Yes.
Okay, if I could have a motion for treasurer's recommendations, 10A through 10E.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, or Ms. Brudno, if you'd like to walk through these?
Yeah, I want to point a few things out. Item A is the reports, the financial reports for the month of February. One thing on here that I want to make you aware of is I did create another SM2 report, or the general fund summary report. So that's typically the first report. I added a second one, which is a revised summary, because there's a pretty significant change on the taxes. Last year and in previous years, we received our Geauga County taxes, part of them in February and then the remainder in March. This year, we did not receive any in February. So if you look at this February report, you might get a little nervous and think, oh my goodness, our taxes are down by $2 million. That is not the case. The balance did come in March, and we have those tax collections actually after the month of March are actually up. So I wanted to throw that report in there just so that you could see that we're not really only expecting 2.6 million in March. We really expect 5.2 million, because that's what actually came in. So I wanted that revised just to kind of show that difference there. And then that is carried through to a few of the other reports as well. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Item B is an investment management agreement. Currently, we have an account with Fifth Third. It's been in existence for a few years. I've been here
We lost you.
Sorry, I don't know why it does that. All right, I don't know where you lost me, but item B is an investment management group, or
Same
I don't know
place.
why it does that. We have an account with Fifth Third right now that has approximately $4 million in it. It's been in existence for a few years, and I've been here for almost a year now, and I've never heard from a single soul at Fifth Third. So they're not providing a whole lot of guidance. They're not providing really a service. They do maintain the funds for us, but I feel like I feel like we can get better service, certainly from Red Tree. And this would also provide us with a better financial deal. They're going to give us 10 basis points is what they're going to charge us. Fifth Third is currently charging us around 24. So it's going to save us about $5,000 a year, which every little bit helps. So in addition to the $5,000 savings, they're also going to give us advice and, hopefully help us maximize our earnings on that. So I'm recommending your approval of that. And then item C is then and now certificates. Nothing significant or new on here. I do want to point out that second one for PSI is for St. Joan of Arc services. Those are not our services. It comes out of their state money, not out of our money. And then item D is donations. We received a donation of 11 jackets at a value of $770 from BSN Sports. And item E is equipment disposal. There are some chairs there at the middle school, and then the high jump pit, which is in pretty bad shape, that we want to dispose of. So I'm recommending your approval of these items.
Okay. Any questions? Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Brudno, if you please take the roll.
All right, Mr. Rankin,
Yes.
Mr. Kanziger,
Yes.
Mrs. Bros,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
and Mrs. O'Toole.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to other business. Any other business for anyone to bring up? All right. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. Same YouTube channel. I think I made the reference last time to the Partridge Family, so I was wrong, but nobody corrected me. It's the Brady Bunch. So the Brady Bunch picture. So I think now, Greg, if you wouldn't mind reading the executive session.
In accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22, the Chagrin Falls Board of Education will go into executive session for the sole purpose of the consideration of any of the following matters. And it's preparing for, conducting, and reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees, considering their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Okay.
Need a second?
Second.
And if you please take the roll.
Mr. Rankin,
Yes.
Mr. Kanziger,
Yes.
Mrs. Bros,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Toole.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. So if I understand it right, we all leave this meeting and then we come back in.
And we don't expect any action after executive session. Is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
All right. See you in
I think we
executive
lost
session.
Phil. Okay.